Anyway, I will call this meeting to order and welcome everybody, and glad you were able to make it. Glad you're able to make it from Greece, Trudy.
Thanks.
Okay. So our first item of business is the adoption of the minutes from our February meeting, which were attached. I've had a chance to read them. So we need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Dave, seconded by Ida.
We'll let Trudy get in there one time.
You don't have to read the motion. I don't think it's basically to adopt the minutes. Okay. So I guess because we can see Trudy, we can still say all in favor because you can vote from there.
Yeah.
Thank you. Good. Okay. Now, boy, this is not a difficult meeting, is it? There's not a lot here, so it's all back to you. Mark, would you give us your report, please?
Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming. I would like to just introduce Samantha Grainer, our regional operation analyst. I invited her to come today, just if you have any questions about how, I'll let Samantha explain all the things that she does, but I rely on Samantha to help me with the analytical data and any crime trends, any issues that we're experiencing in our area. Samantha is able to provide a great deal of information and data for us. So once we're done our quarterly report, I'll let Samantha just speak briefly about her role and her position and how she helps us. And I'd like to formally recognize Staff Sergeant Mike Butler, as this will be probably his last PSB meeting with us. And we're all very sad to see him go. No one more so than me, but we'll let Mike do a couple words at the end of the meeting as well.
Yes, I will miss Michael. I'm sure we all will. I've worked with Mike over the years several times.
So for this reporting period, this is our first quarter for 2022, and we're just covering the time from January until March. In terms of the very first page, we did have for media releases the half season media release, which was put out. And although we're kind of at the cusp of between March and April, we did have the spring seatbelt initiative that just recently took place. In terms of detachment emergency planning, we have completed our COOP plan, and we've also completed our tabletop exercise. And also we've participated virtually in the Elgin County EOC. We've moved to the motor vehicle collisions page, second page. I'm happy to report that there's been no fatal motor vehicle collisions for this reporting period for the quarter. However, you'll see that the property damage report, there's been an increase of 18.9%. And we attribute that to, for this time frame, we're talking about some pretty poor weather, and also a lot of them are wildlife related collisions as well. So we move to the next page. Really, the next two pages will focus on primary causes for fatal motor vehicle collisions. And since we've had none, we can skip through that. If we look at the violent crime, so we have had one murder. I think we were the first in the province for having one.
January 1st.
January 1st.
It'd be hard to beat you.
But there was no risk to the public on that. There's been arrests made and charges laid as well. So that's solved. Our sexual assaults are down 28.6%. And really, there's been no other really significant trends within the violent crime category. If you look at property crime and focus on property crime, you'll see that our theft over has increased by 48%, which represents a difference of 8 occurrences over from this time last year. And the majority of these have been vehicle thefts. And there's been really vehicles and thefts on property. We attribute that also, there's been a lot of property crime, and because it's rural in nature, it's extremely difficult for us to follow up on that with no witnesses and no surveillance. If we move into the drug category, you'll see that the possession charges, it shows that it's dropped by 100%. And really, these statistics are OPP generated statistics. So that looks fantastic that we've had a 100% decline, but that's based on our generation of those stats. If you look at our clearance rates, I touched briefly on the property crime. And I'd like to also just say that Although there's a 14% decrease, there are a number of factors that have attributed to that clearance rate. Part of that is we have our community street crimes unit, and there are members that comprise that we call the CSCU. There's been a rotation of those members. Some of those members have moved on now to the crime unit. So we do have some new members in those positions. So as they get trained and more experienced, we expect our clearance rates are going to rise again. Additionally, we were impacted by some significant events such as the provincial towing protests, or not towing protests, sorry, the provincial
Trucker
convoys in Ottawa and in Windsor, and as well as the Blue Water Bridge. So that took a significant amount of resources away from investigations and follow-up. In terms of our criminal records checks, you'll see that there have been some increases in terms of the criminal records checks and the vulnerable sector screening checks. And really, overall, issues that are specific to us in Elgin County, the amalgamation with Elgin and Chatham is almost complete. We do, that is on track for completion for June 1st. And I've touched on that briefly. And at the end, if there's any questions about that, we can discuss that. But that is good news for us. Additionally, we are expecting an enhancement to our staffing model. I did talk about that earlier, but by the fall, we're expecting between lateral transfers and new recruits that will have a very, will be full or as close to full as it possibly can within our current infrastructure, which is good news for us. I touched on it briefly, but just for your awareness, we did recently host a meeting with all of the local towing operators. And we brought in a subject matter expert from the provincial towing program, just to explain that program to the local operators so they have awareness and understanding of how the policies work and how the program works, which I think will be beneficial for all the members in our communities. And in terms of West Region Command, they would like the opportunity to meet with the board. And unfortunately, they weren't able to make it today, but we can discuss some potential dates or times when, if the board is agreeable to meet with command, just that opportunity so they can meet you and talk to you. And
Gee, if we had it before June, Mike would have to come to another meeting.
I would, maybe. Let's see what we can do. Try.
Just teasing.
Subject to any questions, that is the 4-to-1 report for us.
Really quiet report. Does anyone have any questions for Mark on that report? Seeing none, so you're going to call on.
I'd like to introduce Samantha, and if Samantha, if you could just give us a bit of breakdown of your job description and what you do.
So I'm Samantha Grainer, and I'm the operational analyst for Elgin County as well as Middlesex County. So essentially what I do is I provide analytical services in terms of crime analysis, traffic analysis, prolific locations, hotspot areas that I can identify by using geomapping softwares and tools. I also serve as I liaise between municipal services, so I have contacts throughout Ontario as well as Canada, and I work daily with municipal agencies and other jurisdictions across the province and country. And I also provide analysis to frontline members and work directly with them, and work very closely with our community street crime unit as well as our major crime unit in providing services and reports for them.
Very good. One question I would have, and I can ask if others have questions, and maybe it's Mark that I should be asking, but about, you mentioned deer collisions, et cetera, are up. And I know last year the county put a whole lot more signs up and flashing lights, and yet we're still up. Is it just the higher population of deer?
I think it goes in line with that increase that we discussed in previous meetings, where it's just because of the, and again, I don't hunt, I don't know all those details, but it's through the weather and the coat thickness for the deers, whether that they're out and on the roads more. So it's more of that Ministry of Natural Resources response as to why they're out on the road more. But I think the population may be the issue.
Okay, certainly hunting during hunting season's an issue because they often are running. Yeah, they're pushed. That's not at this time of year.
No, the tractors out in the fields are stirring them up because that's what it was today.
Okay,
I was driving along, there was a sprayer out in the field and there was deer that were crossing the road, so. Anything that'll just stir them up.
it's, yeah, the fact that their habitat is being interrupted.
Invaded, yeah.
Maybe we need to increase have another black powder week or something in the
I
fall.
really think that's. Because some years, if it's not been a hard winter, you'll have twins and that, and other years you'll have singles, and so.
Yeah.
All of a sudden increases so much.
Well, and it usually eventually balances out. There are lots of coyotes out there, et cetera, but
It's a lot of fox.
there are a lot of fox this year. We have foxes in the village of Sparta, and I don't ever remember them being in the village. We've had them up as far as the school before, but there's a mother with 2 kids living right in the village. Gotten rid of all the chickens and ducks and some cats that live in the village. So they're not very popular right now.
Well, they seem to have reduced some of the wild turkeys, which I'm happy about.
For us, though, I'm sorry, about the collision reporting center, I was gonna mention. So we do benefit from we have our new collision reporting center. So people are allowed to come here and report them. Doesn't have to be at the side of the road that time. So there's certainly more convenience for the people in the province. And it can be anyone traveling through the region. And then because we have a sign here to do that, that allows officers to be freed up instead of doing car gear collisions. So there's an operational program that helps us with that increased calls for service.
I had a question for Mark.
Certainly.
Mark, last fall, there was a tragic incident on half a mile from my home on Wilson Line, and I'm just wondering if there was a fatality, if there's any updates on.
So what I can tell you with that, and I have been asked that question during some of the annual report presentations that have taken place. That investigation is still ongoing, and it is fairly complex. And we are waiting for some information, scientific, to be returned to us. But in terms of what I can say, I can tell you that the investigation is still ongoing actively. So.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mark or for Samantha? Or Mike?
Don't want to leave them out, you know.
No, it's the last time you can pick on them.
That's right.
Baby.
That's right.
Heading off to Alaska. Okay, yes, Karen,
And can we receive and file?
certainly. So I need a motion, excuse me, to receive and file.
I'll make the motion.
Trudy is moving and I'll have Ida second then.
Perfect.
I saw it, Trudy.
Thank you.
All those in favor?
Trudy's not in favor.
She's frozen.
I'm in favor. Gotta get it right.
You were frozen at the time your hand was going up. Thank you, that is carried.
I love virtual meetings.
Oh, you tell me about it. We have one council member who comes in virtually and it shuts down. She's in for about 2 votes and then it shuts down just to win again. She should be coming to meetings. Just terrible internet. We have no correspondence. Is there any other items to be discussed today? Is there any new business? Nothing? We don't have a closed session. So the only thing we need to do is talk about when we want to meet with.
The command. So what I can do is I can get a list of dates and then I can send them to you to see if they're agreeable.
Certainly.
And we can arrange a meeting either here or wherever is most convenient for you. They wanted me to stress to make it as convenient for you as possible. So whatever that looks like.
How many would there be?
Probably just 2,
2?
the chief and the superintendent.
I would think we'd be okay here.
Sure, that'd be
I
fine.
mean, we've gotten used to meeting here now, so
Mhm.
we used to meet up in the boardroom at the county, but you don't want to be in the county building right now.
How's renovations going?
Central Elgin have issued ear protectors for every one of their staff. They have to. They said you can't even speak if jackhammers are going. Oh, literally, you can't hear the person right beside you. So I don't know. I said, and Carolyn this is just a bit of a joke, but I said, maybe they should lower the rent during the renovations. It's really, really bad. And we were worried about council Monday night, but they didn't run. And I assuming they got told not to run during county council Tuesday morning, not to run the jackhammers, because I mean, they have to make the noise, the only way they can do it, but it is extremely difficult.
So what exactly, is it the elevators? or
Yeah, they're putting in new elevators and they can't go where the old elevators were because the shafts are not large enough. So they're having to go where the entrances and stairways were. So it's right against Central Elgin, and the county will have their fun once they get the one at the north end done, they move south. Then they're going to start immediately with renovations as well on the council chambers and the economic development office, which will now be moving down to the first floor where the POA was. And so it's going to be lots of construction, and that some of it goes right on to 2023. So
Wow.
it will be noisy and rather disruptive around the county building for a while. And
It's all concrete too.
yeah, and brick. I mean,
Brick,
yeah, it's,
40s or something.
it was built in the late
Chapter.
30s. Yeah. It
Yeah.
was built, it was about to open when the war broke out as a hospital, and then it was switched to the training center for the Air Force. And so then it became the hospital as soon as the war was over, back to being what it was originally built for.
So was your building though the nurses station?
Yes, it was. That was the nursing station. It was also where the nurses lived over there. And
Underground walkway?
yes, there is a tunnel that goes under, and that is still there, the tunnel under the highway. We were able to take, there was a group looking, we were wanting to develop it as the building itself. It's heritage designated, so it can't be torn down. Can't be altered. The outer facade, the inside can be altered any way you want, but the walls are 8 feet thick and they're limestone, Queenston limestone. So it's not, it's a fairly valuable commodity. Now the back wards behind where you guys are, those are not designated. They're just on the clerk's list. They wanted them designated, the province did. It was because the province asked us to do it that we did it. But we had a group in Dwell who are now doing things in St. Thomas, but they do a assisted housing for people, and they were really keen to put assisted housing in their seniors housing, affordable housing, and student residences. And we thought we had everything. Anyway, we got a tour. I was able to manage through Jeff Urick a tour of the whole building for them.
Mhm.
And they even showed them the tunnel under the road, which is blocked at the county end, so you can't get in at the county end. The staff can get in there, like the cleaning guys can get in there, but I worked at the psychiatric hospital for 3 years when I was in university. I taught occupational therapy crafts and stuff. And I used to have to cross through the tunnel at times over to the other, because all the training sessions were over in the nurses' building. It's not fun to walk through the tunnel because
I can imagine.
the heat for the buildings is, and all the hot water is in big pipes on the ceiling above you. And all you kept thinking was, that pipe bursts? We're all gonna be boiled alive.
Like, how long would it take you to walk the tunnel?
10 minutes.
Yeah, at least.
Yeah,
That'd be
that's
almost
what I'm
that
thinking.
long.
It'd be at least that long.
It's a good, well, you see, there are actually 6 miles of tunnels and hallways in that building. And then including the other. And so when I worked back at 6th Ward, which is right back here by that was where I worked for 2 of the years. I used to often have to take reports and things up to the front offices. Well, you didn't walk up to the front offices. You went down to the basement and you picked up a bicycle because they had bikes there for you, and you biked through the tunnels up to the front offices.
Why not?
Is this being recorded, Carolyn? Can you stop? We better adjourn first. No, I'm sorry. I apologize. So we have nothing else. We need a motion to adjourn. Ida, motion, and Dave, all in favor? Thank you.